Apex Extreme Defense ammunition. This is a Target Sports USA exclusive ammunition that they produce, and the prices on these are the cheapest defensive boxes of ammo I have ever purchased. These 9mm rounds were $8 a box for 20. These 38 special rounds were $10 a box for 20. So very, very low cost. Our 9mm is a 118 grain extreme defense, and that is rated at 1145 feet per second. Our 38 special is a 100 grain extreme defense rated at 1000 feet per second. So they do also happen to have the 90 grain extreme defense. I just happen to pick that, just randomly pick that. But very, very inexpensive. Like if you were to take the Underwood version of this, it would be $2.07 a round for these 38 special. These are 50 cents a round. So I don't know how they do that, because the brass on the 38 special is Starline brass. So they're actually taking bullets that cost more than what the loaded ammo cost. I don't know how they do that. So I'm going to use my short barrels today to test these, my 3.2 inch Taurus G2C and my 2-inch Taurus 605. Almost identical amount of barrel travel from the front of that bullet out the muzzle in both of these 3.2 inch semi-auto versus a 2-inch revolver. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. After we do that, we're going to do more of a real world simulation. 4 layers of sweatshirt material. I know it's redundant, but I like to stay consistent. 4 layers of sweatshirt material on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle, then a 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard after 3 inches of clear ballistics to represent hitting ribs or sternum. So we'll do a plain clear ballistic shot and then a real world simulation shot, and then I will shoot at the steel target to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. I'm about 5 yards from that target. First up, we have our 9mm 118 grain extreme defense by Lehigh bullet. These are rated at 1145 feet per second. I don't know the barrel length, probably longer than this. So let's see how close we get to that 1145 feet per second. A little G2C here. 1080, 976, 1000, 1039, 1026. So not too bad compared to its rated velocity of 1145. We're pretty close. This is probably rated through a 4-inch barrel 38 special, but we are rated at 1000 feet per second. Let's see what I get in my little snub here. See how close I get to 1000. 852, 933, 925, 942, 930. So definitely a little bit below our rated velocity, but these are extreme defense bullets, so they're not going to rely on expansion. They're got those flutes in there to create the damage, so it doesn't really matter that we're kind of slow. So let's hit our ballistics gel blocks, see how these compare. All right, our plain clear ballistics shot, what I like to call our best potential shot. This generally matters for like hollow points, because sometimes fabric can cause inability to get hollow point expansion. So I would run a clear ballistics shot first to see what the bullets are supposed to look like. Not going to matter with ammo like this, but I still like to stay consistent. So let's see what we get with our 9mm. All right, let's hit that with our 38 special. Let's go take a look. All right, I cut away very quickly because I forgot to put a couple more rounds in that revolver. But what we got is pretty consistent performance between both of these, about the same type of thing here. And this is that thing, I know this is going to tick a lot of people off, but what I'm seeing is tumbling. Everything indicates tumbling. The fact that we got not a whole lot of cutting damage in this first 3 inches. And then once we get to a certain point here, about the point where certain rounds do tumble, 4 or 5 inches, I see a bunch of damage. Our 9mm backwards, our 38 is forward. Just looks like tumbling damage to me. A lot of people say those flutes would cause all this hydraulic difference, and because I'm not using organic gel, I'm not going to get out of it how it's supposed to work, but at the same time, I just, you know, it's kind of conflicting of, you know, what's actually happening here. But what we can say is that our penetration seems okay. We have a penetration with our 9mm of 14.5 inches, and with our 38 special we have about 12.5 inches, so about a 2-inch difference in penetration with these. So let's put on our fabric, put in our rib simulation, and see how they continue to compare that way. All right, a real world simulation, 4 layers of sweatshirt material, 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch medium density fiber board, 9mm. Now let me set that back up, we'll hit it with the 38 special. All right, 38 special real world simulation. Let's go take a look. All right, so we'll take a look here at our rib simulation here. Yeah, we're getting keyholing through this rib simulation, which would definitely indicate we're starting to get some tumbling going on. Not a lot of energy dump in this first 3 inches here. And we have a good amount of tumbling damage right here where it's spinning through right here. Both the bullets in this shot are backwards, which obviously means that they did rotate along that path there. But what we got with our 9mm, it kind of went inward, kind of weird. It looks like it went inward about 2-3 inches this way, which is interesting. But with our 9mm, we have almost exactly what we had before. I think we got about 14.25 inches instead of 14.5, so very, very consistent with that 9mm. With our 38 special, we lost some of that consistency, probably due to the lack of velocity that we got going on here. And we did get a little bit under penetration. We're at about 11.25 inches of penetration. Still enough penetration on a front-on shot, but if you're to make a side shot through an arm or something like that, it's probably not going to go quite deep enough to hit something vital. So a little bit subpar on that 38 special performance. So what I'm seeing here is about what I've expected. Generally, these bullets always perform the same, and that's a good thing. You know, you get the consistency, you know what you're going to get. The problem with these, though, is a lot of people say they perform better than hollow points without any real data on that, whether they do or they don't. So until I get that information where it shows, you know, this is how many shots were fired, this is how effective they were, how many one-shot stops that we saw, you know, it's hard for me to say it's a great choice. But what I can say is that they're not over-penetrating. So the way I look at it is they're probably performing similar to a Full Metal Jacket, maybe a tad better, but they're not over penetrating. So I would say they're definitely performing better than a Full Metal Jacket because of that, and because they're probably tumbling. But in my opinion, they're not really doing as much damage as what I see with the hollow point. So not great, not terrible either. So let's pull these out of block. We'll take a close-up look at them, then I'll shoot our steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get on steel. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets. You're going to learn pretty much nothing from this. Here's our 9mm and our 38 special. They both had, you know, no difference with those going through our real-world simulation versus our plain gel. Here's our 9mm. It's got kind of a plus pattern for the tip there. And our 38 special has a little bit different tip, where it's kind of concave a little bit. It's got little sharp diamonds on it. Now, why they chose that design for the 38 and a different one for the 9mm, I have no idea. Bullets are about as tall as each other, even though this is 118 grain and this is a 100 grain, and that's to do that they have a flat base on the 9mm and a hollow base there on our 38. My guess is that they probably need to do that to make it taller so that it will tumble. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like when I say that. They think I'm like conspiracy theorist on this, but it's just what I'm seeing. It's like they're designed to tumble really well, and they do a good job at that. But a lot of people say they do more damage than a hollow point because of hydrostatic shock, which is a fake term. All the while, you know, there is a science thing in medical science. It's not called that, but essentially after 2,200 feet per second, like a rifle bullet, that stretch will actually cause permanent damage, as where it's only temporary damage at handgun velocities. But because Lehigh says it does that type of damage, it magically does at 1,000 feet per second. Yeah, so I don't know, but that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, decided to split the difference here, come back to 40 yards, just do all my shooting from 40 yards and see how these things will group for me if I really try to slow fire and see how these things will do. So 9mm, see what I can do with this. Relative point of impact from where I'm aiming. A few flyers there, but relatively okay for what they are. All right, 38 special. See what I can do with this thing. So something's weird is going on with the point of impact with that. It's shifting quite a bit. These are actually quite a bit louder than the 9mm. So that's interesting. What I think is going on is I see a lot more impacts low left than typical. So I'm going to aim at the right shoulder, see if this makes any difference. Last shot I pulled that. I'm not used to shooting single action, so I did not even have my sights lined up. So what I'm seeing with this, pretty easy to decipher what's going on here. With this, I just was not accurate with it. A lot of people that don't shoot revolvers a lot will say that's me, but I'm here to tell you I shoot double action revolvers as well as I shoot semi-automatic pistols. So I don't think it's just me here. It does look like the point of impacts are really hard to dial in where they're at. As where with the 9mm, you know, it looked like they were going pretty much where I wanted them to go, where my sights were, and I had a couple of them that dropped and went a little bit to the left. But overall, you know, we're keeping that group, you know, about this big at 40 yards for the most part with that 9mm. So it looks to me like these bullets are very, very much velocity based. Once you drop down to a certain level, like what we're seeing with the 38 Special, it just doesn't want to remain accurate, and it just does not want to penetrate as deep. Now, our deeper penetration with the 9mm may very also well be due to the fact that they are 118 grain, as where these 38 Specials are 100 grain. So we're going to get more momentum and more penetration with that 9mm than what we are with that 38 Special, obviously because of that. So what I'm seeing with this here is I don't think this is a very good 38 Special because we under-penetrated and all of that. You could do a lot better. But with the 9mm, for the cost of them, for an $8 box of ammo, for them, they're performing pretty much like a standard pressure Underwood Extreme Defender or a Lehigh, because Lehighs are actually a little bit lower in the power. I would say that these are very, very similar to like the performance you would get out of Lehigh brand. But instead of spending, you know, $30 a box, you're going to spend $8. So I would say that this Apex 9mm is not a bad choice for what you're getting out of it, because you go down to a short barrel pistol, you might not get expansion with a hollow point. You can at least know that you're going to get consistent performance. So that's one of those things. Sometimes when you go down to short barrels, you're going to get one thing or the other. You're going to get expansion and under penetration, or you're going to get no expansion and over penetration. With these, you can at least know what you're going to get. They might not be particularly effective, but you know you're going to get that penetration, and you know you're going to get that consistent tumbling there, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So I would say these 9mm are decent for what they are. But our 38 Special, kind of weird. They had kind of a loud sound, a high recoil impulse, more than normal, and not particularly accurate for me, and under penetrating. So yes on the 9mm, no on the 38 Special. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.